right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, I thought this was pretty interesting. Fabian Mayr, a.k.a. Classy FM, that's his Instagram handle. He just qualified again for the Classic Physique Olympia this past weekend. The interesting thing about that, though, is recently at the Portugal Pro, or some call it the Mr. Big Evolution, he had just recently missed weight for Classic Physique and wound up competing in Open at that show, where he looked great as an Open competitor. Again, kind of fueling this discussion about Classic guys switching to Open, how good would they do? And at that show, he placed top 4 in the Open division, behind Rubiel, who won, Bruno, and Nathan at that show. So it's a pretty fast turnaround going from missing weight, doing Open, back to Classic Physique, winning the show this past weekend, and qualifying for the Classic Physique Olympia again. The last time we saw him on the Classic Physique Olympia stage was 2022, where he was not only top 10, but he was 7th, so a pretty good placing at his last Olympia showing. He's had a little bit of a hiatus from 2022 to now, but in that year, he won 2 pro shows, got to the Olympia, took 7th. So, I mean, it's a fair question whether or not at this year's Olympia he's going to be back in that top 10 mix, even though we haven't seen him there for a couple of years. But it begs the question, will he be back in the mix? So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, looking at this recent video of Fabian winning this past weekend show to qualify for the 2025 Classic Physique Olympia. Now, next up in the news, a little bit of a pivot here, back to strongman. One of the bigger stories of the summer was Hafthor Bjornsson breaking his own 510kg deadlift record. As you guys know, it was a very controversial record when he set it back during COVID in 2020, and he broke it with a 505kg deadlift, and that was one of the bigger stories. Now, apparently it's confirmed now that in just a couple of weeks, on September 6th, at the Giants Live competition, he's going to be attempting a new record above the 505 kgs. It looks like he's apparently going for 510 at this Giants Live competition. I think a lot of people looked at the 505 deadlift and thought that it seemed like he might have some more in the tank. And I think that certainly a lot more people respect the 505 record because it was done in competition. It was significant enough over Eddie Hall's 500 record. I don't think there's very many people questioning the 505, but I think if he successfully gets the 510, I think it should become completely undisputed that he is the deadlift world record holder, even though I think it is now. I know there were still some people questioning the lockout of the 505, but I think if he gets 510, I think it's a wrap. And a few weeks ago, someone had sent me a clip from one of Hafthor's live streams. I think it was like a Twitch stream or something, where he was saying he wants to continue to do this, continue to pursue the deadlift. If he gets the 510, he's going to continue to try to increase it by 5 kgs, go for 515, then 520. He thinks he can keep going. So it seems like this is going to be a continuous thing, and not just setting, like he did with the 501, setting the 501 record, kind of disappearing from deadlift and strongman for a little bit, going to boxing and other things. It looks like this is going to be his new pursuit based on the clip that I saw from his Twitch stream, is just seeing how high he can push that number for the deadlift world record. So it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, September 6th, he's going to be attempting 510, so that's coming pretty soon. And let me know in the comments down below if you think he's going to be successful at that 510 kilo attempt. And also let me know what you thought of the 505. Are you in the camp that thinks it's legitimate, it's undisputed now, or do you still have some issue with it? Now, next up in the news, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming Italy Pro. This is one of the guys that I'm really excited to see here. He's coming back from a shoulder injury. Marc Hector. This is 2 weeks out. He's 262 pounds. He says he's very flat here. This is one of the physiques that I'm really excited to see in this lineup. I think he's got a very aesthetically pleasing physique for an open bodybuilder. I mean, you look at the abs and thighs, you can see how small his waist is here. And again, like I said, he's coming back from an injury. So I hope that he does well here. And 262 is pretty big to have a waist like that. And I actually talked to Marc earlier today. He said he's going to be sending me some physique updates that he hasn't posted to talk about in a video. So some behind-the-scenes stuff. But, I mean, for that size, you know, like he says, he's flat here, but he looks like he's in really good shape for 262. Deep striations in the chest. His legs look good. You're looking at the back poses. You can see, you know, striated glutes. You can see the detail in the hamstrings. I'm curious to see how he does here. Like I said, he's a guy that we haven't really talked about much or hasn't been talked about going into this show because he's been out for a while because of that shoulder. We last saw him at last year's Big Man Evolution in Spain, where he was 4th in open bodybuilding at that show. 2022, he was 3rd at the Tsunami Cup Pro. At the Arnold Classic UK in 2022, for open bodybuilding, he was 5th. So he's had some relatively good placings, but he hasn't had that first professional win yet. He hasn't had that first professional, like, top 2 call-out yet. And I just think his name should be a little bit more in the mix here as we get closer to Italy. The official competitor list is not going to be out until Monday, next Monday, not this Monday. So when that list comes out, that's when I'm going to be talking about everybody that's in the show. But you know, there's a lot of big names that I've heard are potentially doing this show, maybe doing the show. We've already talked about Lewis Breed, Quint Beastwood. We've talked about Marc. Urs, of course, is doing the show. Sergio Oliva Jr., Emir Omaragic. But now I'm hearing Tim Budesheim might be jumping in this lineup. I know he's doing the Germany show, but it looks like he might also be doing Italy. And then Theo Leguerrier, it looks like recently confirmed he was doing this show. I know that he was going to do, I think he's still doing the Tsunami show in France. It's a little bit later in the season, and that's past the Olympia qualification deadline for 2025. But he posted this recent physique update today with the Italian flag on there, so it looks like he's also doing the show. And I think that Theo is an interesting addition to this lineup because a lot of these names that we're talking about as the bigger names in this show have not yet won a pro show and have not yet been to the Olympia. And Theo has. Theo was at the 2024 Olympia. He took 15th place there. And I believe in totality in his pro career, he's won a total of 3 pro shows, which is something a lot of the guys in this lineup can't say, especially some of the guys that we've been talking about as potential top guys here. So I think what's interesting about this show, or these next 2 shows, with the storylines going into them, with number 1 being they're the last 2 qualifying opportunities for this year's Mr. Olympia. So 2 more names could be added to that Olympia qualified competitor list. The other storyline going into this, obviously, is Urs Kalsinski's open bodybuilding debut. The other storyline being Quint Beastwood's potential redemption here. And I think it makes it interesting that this lineup is like a really good show. It's a really good lineup, really competitive. It's not going to be an easy win. If Urs is able to win his open debut at one of these 2 shows, it's not going to be an easy win. If Quinton is going to get his redemption at one of these 2 shows after Tampa and Texas, it's not going to be an easy win. So it's going to be a really exciting show. And speaking of Quinton, we got a couple more updates from Quinton today. Well, in the last 24 hours, there were 2. So there were these 2 updates that he posted today, more posing with Samson Dauda. And there was this other series of updates that were comparison updates, 5 days apart from left to right. And we are now under 2 weeks out from this Italy Pro Show. Now, he says in the caption here that he's still coaching himself. I think it is impressive that you can see a pretty clear difference in 5 days between the before and after pictures in this update. And I still believe what I said about Quinton in the last video, that he looks better in these updates than he looked even during peak week for either Texas or Tampa. I think this is going to be the best Quinton that we've ever seen. But the question is, will that be enough to get him to the Olympia stage in 2025? And I think it's also worth pointing out that throughout the year, before the end of 2025, there's still going to be several more open pro shows. Even though these are the last 2 that are for this year's Olympia, there's going to be several throughout the rest of the year, a good amount of opportunities to qualify for next year's Mr. Olympia. So even if Quinton doesn't win one of these 2 shows, he could theoretically keep competing throughout the year and try to get an early qualification for next year's Mr. Olympia. And the same is true for a lot of these guys. And of course, you've still got Sergio Oliva Jr. in this lineup. Sergio Oliva Jr. is not going to be an easy guy to beat. Now, recently, he hasn't had any big professional wins. Recently, he's had a lot of top 3 finishes. In 2025, most recently, the FIBO show that Andrew Jacked won, Sergio Oliva Jr. was 3rd at that show. 3rd at the Cali Pro in 2023. 3rd at the Legion in 2021. I would say his biggest win ever being the 2017 New York Pro that he won. But I like how he looks in these updates. I mean, he still looks like he's a threat, despite on paper maybe not looking like he's going to be a favorite to win this show. I mean, I think he looks good in these updates. And like I said, I'm going to do a more in-depth breakdown on this Italy Pro lineup when we get the full competitor list next week. But right now, it's shaping up to be a really impressive lineup. and it looks to me like there's some pretty heavy hitters lining up to do this show. But I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the video there, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What are your predictions for the upcoming Italy Pro? I think it's going to be a very exciting show, that and Germany. But as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.